Hey guys, what's up? This is Emmy, and you are watching Mr. Media.
Today on Mr. Media, I'll reach back into the vault to 1978 for one of the first celebrity interviews I ever did, the incomparable mother himself, Frank Zappa. Stick around, and please don't think less of me when this is over. I was young, naive, and the internet had not yet been invented. Today's episode of Mr. Media Interviews is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. You know GoDaddy.com from their wild and sexy commercials, but isn't it time you actually test drove their web hosting and domain registration services yourself? For a limited time, Mr. Media listeners can save 10% on the already low price of web hosting services at GoDaddy.com by entering the promo code POD4 at checkout. Again, that's 10% off web hosting when you go to GoDaddy.com and enter the promo code POD4, that's P-O-D, the number 4, at checkout. I was barely a month into my freshman year at the University of Miami, working at the student radio station WVUM 90.5 FM, when I found myself in the right place at the right time. Although you may soon think I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. The station manager, Bob Bear Mordente, was looking for someone willing to go out to the Royal Biscayne Hotel in Key Biscayne to interview musician and pop culture legend Frank Zappa. I said I'd do it if no one else volunteered. Then, as now, I wasn't afraid of interviewing anyone. Then, it was foolish. I had no on-air experience and even less experience interviewing anyone for broadcast. Oh, and I knew absolutely zero about Mr. Zappa. But a time was set for the next day, and I went back to my dorm to see if anybody had any idea what I should ask the man. Lucky for me, not really, the drug dealers, the students in the room next to me had piles of Zappa and Mothers of Invention albums, and purported to be experts on the man. Experts on the myth, as it turned out, but urban legends as a buzz phrase was still a good 20 years off. Anyway, these two knuckleheads filled me up with wide-eyed stories of ridiculous things that Zappa allegedly had done on stage over the years, and I took copious notes. The next day, Mordente and I drove out to the Royal Biscayne Hotel and our moment with destiny. Mordente handled recording the sound on a reel-to-reel machine so I could focus on Zappa and my litany of ludicrous questions. I asked the most idiotic, moronic things of this brilliant American master, and I must say that he treated me with great kindness in return, encouraging me to see him as a person, not some bizarre cartoon, and to just engage him in conversation. It was advice I remember and follow to this day, whether I'm talking to musicians, authors, politicians, athletes, or entrepreneurs. My unvarnished, unedited interview with Frank Zappa aired immediately on WVUM, was repeated often, and became a legend in awfulness. Despite this, I had a blast working on the college radio station, mostly handling Friday and Saturday overnights, spinning deep album cuts, taking requests from my pals in the dorms, and meeting some really bizarre stoner listeners in the greater Coral Gables community. What survives from my day with Frank Zappa, we were together a couple hours, is the edited 30-minute recording you're about to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, my day with Frank Zappa, September 14th, 1978.
Have a good day. Okay, thanks for the video. I'll bring it straight up later. All right.
Pleasure meeting you. I waited a long time.
All right, well, we'll see you at the,
See you
at the pool.
Nice meeting you.
Take care, guys. Okay, gang, be good.
Well, you just said someone that people wouldn't pay to come see you.
That's right.
All right, who are you?
Well, I ain't gonna tell you, and I won't tell the other
You're not
guy.
going to tell him.
Yeah.
On stage,
That's
who are
nobody's
you?
business but mine. Well, I'm Frank Zappa on stage.
Frank Zappa on stage. Who's Frank Zappa on stage?
Well, I'm the Frank Zappa that you see on stage is whoever you think he is.
Is that the Grand Wazoo?
If that's your idea of a good time, that's it. I mean,
Cletus Auritus? Cletus Auritus.
if you have 10,000 people in the audience, there's 10,000 people who have a different idea of who I am and what I do.
Now, on stage, I have been told, I haven't seen you on stage. I'm uninitiated.
Yeah.
I have been told you have done some pretty crazy things. You have you defecated on stage?
No,
No. Okay. That's wrong.
that's right.
What have you done on stage? What do you consider, for your own standards, unusual that you've done on stage?
Oh, I don't know. Couldn't think of anything.
Don't think of anything. Would you go to see your act?
Sure.
You would.
Yeah.
How much would you pay to see your act? Today.
Well, depends on how much money I had.
You've got a concert tomorrow night.
Yeah.
What right now is going through your mind as to what you have to do to get yourself ready to go on stage before however many thousand people will be there?
Well, the main thing I have to concern myself with right now is a lot of specialized equipment has been shipped around the world in order to arrive in Miami. And this afternoon I'm going down there to see if any damage has occurred in shipping and to get the damage fixed up to the equipment, if there is any, and then plug it all in, tweeze it all up, and play the show.
Are you thinking that you're going to do anything different tonight than you've done in the last? I understand you've been in Europe
Yeah,
for 3
we've been
weeks.
in Europe for 3 weeks. I wrote a couple of songs while I was here at this hotel. I'm probably going to try them out. I doubt if I'll put them into the show for tomorrow, but I'm going to try them out.
I overheard you, and I apologize for that, but I overheard you saying you're putting together a movie.
Right.
That you hope for January release?
Yeah.
What's the title of the movie?
We have 3 potential titles. One of them is Baby Snakes, the other one is Gas Mask, and the other one is Martian Love Secrets. Which one do you like?
Martian Love Secrets. I like Martian Love Secrets.
Yeah, it's a catchy little title.
Yeah, it is, especially today.
Yeah.
Is there a plot?
It's a movie about ideas.
Movie about ideas.
Right.
Aha. Whose ideas?
Just ideas in general.
These aren't your ideas?
Well, I have some, and then the audience obviously has some.
You had, I was checking into you today at a record store, and I saw an album out that was from, it said it was from an uncompleted movie?
Mm-hmm.
Has that been completed?
No.
Is that the movie we're talking about?
No.
That's a different movie.
Right.
What was the title of that movie?
Uncle B.
Uncle Me? And what was that about?
Ideas.
Ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a chance. Can it be classified into a standard movie category?
No.
No. Would it be, if it was a novel, would it be in the, would it be if we were going to categorize, if we had to categorize, would it be categorized?
You think that you're going to run down a list of things and treat me like some kind of an interrogator, and I'm going to say something other than that it's a movie about ideas, and that's all I'm going to say.
Who are the characters? Are there characters?
There's Uncle Meat.
Uncle Me.
There's Bimbo, his Mexican slave. Yeah. There's Mr. and Mrs. Sweeney. Yeah.
Not Reno. Uncle Meat. Where does Uncle Meat come from? What's
An
his
expression that Ray Collins thought of.
Ray Collins?
Yeah. He was the original lead singer in the group in 1965.
Is that, do you have any idea if that'll be completed soon?
No.
Do you want it to be completed?
Well, I'd like to, but all these things take money, and I only got so much to spend on projects like that.
All right, the next movie, the Martian movie. Would that, how much is the budget for that? How much would you estimate it?
Well, I've spent $4, and it's going to take another $5 to finish it.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
Okay. Have you got a distribution plan? A distributor?
No, I'm just talking about what it's going to cost to finish it to the point where you can show it to a distributor.
Your music, would you call it instrumental? Would you call it
Well, that album was instrumental.
this one? Grand Wazoo.
Yeah. But that's only one of 25.
Right. And you wouldn't, I wouldn't even ask you to generalize. I don't think you would.
I wouldn't.
Okay. Your next album, I understand you want to tie in a new album with the movie?
Yeah.
Do you have a title for that album?
Well, there's three possibilities. Baby Snakes, Gas Mask, or Martian Love Sequence.
Okay. What is this album? Has the recording been done for it?
Yes.
You've been in the studio?
It's all done.
And you're holding off because you want to coincide with
That's
the
right.
movie. Okay. Would you call this album highly instrumental?
No. Most of it is vocal.
Okay. Who? Now, in the past, you've had among people that I recognize, Johnny Guitar Watson, John Bruce Ponte. I hope I have the pronunciation correct. Do you have anyone playing with you now that is
That
on
you
this
would
album?
recognize?
No, not that I would recognize it, but you see receiving the recognition that these two fellows have.
No.
No, but would you consider them to be outstanding in their own right?
What, the musicians that made the album?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very outstanding.
Who's in the band now?
Bunch of people you never heard of.
Okay, but people listening might.
Okay, Peter Wolf on keyboards, Tommy Mars on keyboards, Vince Colaiuta on drums, Arthur Barrow on bass, Ed Mann on percussion, Denny Wally on slide, and Ike Willis on rhythm and vocals.
Okay. That's what I want to. That's what they want to know. See, now you know. Now look at this. I'm talking to a tape recorder. I heard a song you did a few years ago called "It Can't Happen Here."
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely unusual. Okay. Now what I'm wondering is, there's a fellow now named Martin Mull. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
Okay. And when I heard that, I thought of him. Have you heard his albums or
No.
any of his work?
Of course, remember that song was recorded in '64.
Other people who try to follow you up, try to imitate you,
Sure.
who would you say, would you be willing?
No, I wouldn't embarrass them, but I mean, you know, if you're going to imitate somebody, you might as well imitate me.
I'm told that you're often compared in this century as a composer of Beethoven. How do you feel about that?
Well, since I don't care for Beethoven's music, I wouldn't be all that flattered.
Well, not in the sense of his caring for his music, but in the sense of Beethoven being an outstanding composer in his time, and you know.
He wasn't an outstanding composer in his time. People didn't like him.
You're having a good time.
I'm just telling you the truth. You know.
Okay.
They thought he was crazy. They used to write because he was deaf. They would say, well, you know, he doesn't know what he's writing. He's deaf. It's ugly music. People hated it. And in that regard, I think that I can be compared to Beethoven.
You think, is that the way you feel your music is taken?
Well, most of the people in the United States either haven't heard it at all because the radio stations don't play it, or they heard somebody talk about it, or they've, you know, heard it discussed disparagingly in one way or another because it doesn't sound like everybody else's music. And since Americans always want everything to be exactly like the next guy's stuff, you know, it's that desire to conform, and you know, there's no place for something different.
How would you like to see your music remembered, let's say 50, 100 years from now?
I don't care whether it's remembered. The only reason I write it is because I want to hear it. And if somebody else likes it, that's fine. And if they don't, that's understandable.
Are you writing, did you begin writing your music for the money or for the art or what? There's a quote that says, anyone that writes for any other reason than to make money is crazy.
I never said that.
No, you didn't, but that's a general quote. Is that
You can't
Is that
write.
right?
You can't write music to make money.
no?
No.
It's one of the biggest, isn't it one of the biggest entertainment
No.
industries?
Let's get our semantics straight here.
Okay.
Making product makes money. Writing music doesn't. If you're a composer in the United States, you don't make money. But if you're one of these schmucks that cranks out product for the record companies, well then of course you can make a buck, because what you do is you write according to a formula, and if you want to stretch the limitations of the word music to include that kind of swill, well then there you go. You can make money from that. But, you know, if you want to write music, like orchestra music or chamber music or something like that, you won't make any money. As a matter of fact, you'll have to take a part-time job to support yourself.
Have you done that? early years. Did you
Yeah.
support? What kind of work did you do?
Well, let's see, I used to be a commercial artist. I had a job as a busboy for a while.
Your commercial art, has it ever, or any of your artwork, has it ever been included in any of your
I only did one cover.
Which one was that?
The second album, Absolutely Free.
What, well, your albums, financially, have they been for the whole successful? Do you and...
Oh, I'd say they've been fair.
Well, is the major source of your income your albums, your concerts?
Publishing.
Publishing. That's interesting. Could that be broken up on a percentage basis, whereas if you're publishing...
Talk to my
concerts-
accountant.
Well, I think on occasion, it may not seem like I'm thinking now, but I do on occasion. I recalled seeing ads in comic books, late
Right.
60s.
First time it was ever done.
And the Mothers of Invention. Can you explain that? I was unclear reading the ads, and I never seen it.
It was an ad for an album called Rolling for the Moon. First time an album had ever been advertised in a comic book.
How did the advertisement do? As far as
It didn't sell
selling
a hell of a lot of albums, but made history.
Do you think you acquired a whole legion of teeny boppers at the time?
No, because most of the people who read comic books during that day and age were servicemen. Did you know that? The largest audience for Marvel Comics were U.S. servicemen in Vietnam.
Were you reading at the time?
Comic books? Yeah, I used to like them.
You still read them?
No, not at the time. But in the 60s, those Marvel Comics were very popular among the servicemen. This is according to a survey done by the people who sold the comic books. Unfortunately, the PX wouldn't sell our records, so the ads didn't do any good. You know, the PX refused to stock albums back.
Well, couldn't they order through the mail?
No, it wasn't a mail order ad.
Oh.
I mean, suppose you're sitting over there in the jungle. What are you going to do? Get out your Spiegel catalog?
Okay. There's something a little more serious I want to ask you about, and that's your feelings towards pot. Such. Do you, straight out, do you use currently?
Absolutely not.
Have you ever?
Yeah, I smoked 10 marijuana cigarettes in my life. It made me sleepy and gave me a sore throat.
Would you say you're anti-pot?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you say you're anti-pot in the sense that Jerry Lewis is anti-muscular dystrophy?
Well, I don't know what that means.
Meaning that, well, you said that you would
I
smoke
mean, that I
10.
would crusade against it and do a telethon
No.
against smoking
I mean,
pot.
would you?
I mean, I'm against it because I don't use it, I don't like it, I don't care for it. Somebody else wants to mess with their brains, let them go ahead, I don't care.
Well, let's
I just
say,
don't think that it's good.
would you fight legalization of it?
No, I wouldn't. Absolutely not. I
Do
think
you
it
feel
ought
it's an individual's right?
Sure. Same as getting drunk. But I don't like drunk people either. You know, I don't find it amusing to have anybody performing acts which can tend to interfere with other people's rights and use the line, "Oh, don't mind me, I was loaded," as an excuse for behavior which can make things uncomfortable for other people. I don't like to have sloppy drunks hanging on me, and I don't like to have stoned people hanging around.
Did you know Keith Moon?
Yeah.
How do you look at a situation like that?
What, when people die?
Well, he's said to have died of an overdose, and all the problems he had.
Yeah, I don't care about people dying. You know, what?
Do you feel that there's something tragic to that?
No.
In dying of that? It's
No.
his own. It was in his own hands.
My sentiments are these: if a person wants to commit suicide, let him go ahead and do it. We've even got a song about it called "Suicide Chump," and the sentiment of our song is: if you're going to commit suicide, do it right the first time, because nothing's worse than a suicide chump. You know?
I think.
Sure, you want to die? Go die. Get it over with.
What would be the best way?
I don't know. I'm not suicide oriented.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear. I think I know the answer, but what do you think about the people who buy your records and come to your concerts?
I think they're wonderful.
Do you
Those
think?
3 guys that are in here, you know where they're from? They're from New York. They drove down here. 2 of them drove, the other one flew down here to see this show.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah, I see them every year when we go out on the road. I mean, these guys are hardcore fans, you know. And and every year they go to maybe 10 or 12 concerts all over the East Coast. They follow us around.
Well, do you prefer the status of, I guess, cult worship rather than general acceptance?
Well, there's really not much difference because in either case, none of the people who are listening to the music have the faintest fucking idea what's going on.
Do you believe that on the whole?
Yeah.
There's no one that knows what you're getting at?
No.
Do you know what you're getting at?
Oh, absolutely.
What are you getting at?
What, I'm
Ideas.
supposed to tell you?
Why not? That's why we're here. Nobody else seems to know.
Yeah, well, you listen to the music, and if you can figure it out, then you get a gold star. And if you can't, just stand in line with everybody else. I don't think that anybody understands anything about anything. The whole of your knowledge is built on partial comprehension of phenomena which nobody can explain to you.
Is this the Frank Zappa on stage, or is this Frank Zappa I'm talking to at the moment?
You figure it out.
Okay.
But think about what I told you. There isn't anybody who knows anything about anything. And if they tell you they do, they're lying to you.
How does that sorry. How long have you been with, well, how long, when did you begin with the Mothers?
64.
64. Is your band still considered Frank Zappa and Mothers of Invention? When did that?
3 years ago. We stopped calling it the Mothers.
Now it's just Frank Zappa.
No, just Zappa.
Zappa. Let me ask you this: if you were going to, would you sit down and listen to your music? Do you?
Sure, I told you a little while ago. Too bad your memory is so short. But the only reason why I do it is so I can hear it.
If you were going to sit down to listen to a couple of cuts, what would you listen to? That you personally are proud of?
It depends on my mood that day.
Okay, you probably looked upon as one of the most unconventional singer-composers of our time, of progressive album rock, or whatever you want to call it. Why? Why do you write the things that you do?
That's what I do. I just sit down and do it. It's my idea of a good time. Why would somebody write a song that would sound like the Eagles? I can't imagine that. Why would somebody sit down and write a song like Push in the Bush? What's going on here?
You have a
to
lot.
each his own.
Yeah, you have a lot of songs that are not air quality that we can't play.
Air quality.
Our FCC will not allow some of the.
There is no ruling from the FCC saying you can't play Dynamo Hall, and many stations have played it. As a matter of fact, the station right here in Miami played it 2 days ago.
I heard that a lot of stations got a lot of feedback though from that.
Come on, you don't get feedback from the FCC. You really don't. What happens is sometimes people, for the most peculiar reasons, will complain and threaten to stations and get in touch with the FCC. One case that I know about, to give you an example, I mean, you guys run scared of the FCC, but you got to be rational about what this censorship is all about. In Phoenix, Arizona, there was a situation where an FM station, which was popular in the area, which was one of the kind of stations that boutiques and hairdressers would keep on in the background while they're conducting their daily business. They were using it like progressive music in these businesses. And one day they played Brown Shoes Don't Make It. And you don't even know that song. They played this song. And somebody in one of these boutiques complained, take that off, why are you messing this up? As if it was their God-given right to have this pablum music pumped into their establishment for free all the time. And something comes on there that doesn't sound like an Eagles song or a disco song, they get upset, And there was an FCC complaint over that. So, if you understood that song, or if you knew what that song sounded like, you'd see how preposterous the complaint would be.
How was your tour in Europe? Response-wise?
Where were you?
50,000 people in Ulm, 40,000 people in Saarbrücken, and 35,000 in Nebworth. And we also played in Malmo in Sweden, Bremen in Berlin. We were all over there for 3 weeks.
Would you consider a good tour for you?
Well, considering the amount of time we spent and the number of jobs we played, we probably reached more people on this tour than we did in the last 2 European tours, because they're outdoor festivals.
this show tomorrow night is your first show in the U.S.
Yeah.
tour. Is this, how many show tour are you on now?
Well,
East Coast.
we're booked solid through the 31st or 1st November.
We're from the University of Miami, Campus Station. Somewhat, I was told maybe that you were a student there once.
No.
No, that's
I used to live in Opelika when I was 5 years old. That's as close as I get to
That
Florida
was just something
folklore.
I had heard. I was,
No. You hear the funniest things about me. Somebody came up and said, "You have a PhD, don't you?" And I said, "No way."
did you go to school, to college, or?
Just long enough to get laid. That's all. It's the only reason you have to go, you know. So I met a girl and got out of school. That was it.
You played on the campus about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the school then. I heard it was an outrageous concert though. Did you like doing that concert?
Yeah, it was good. A little hot.
Yeah, we were hoping to get you back up there this year.
I'm curious, what do you like to talk about? If you're just
Absolutely nothing. If left to my own devices, I would just sit here and just sit by myself.
would you sit and write?
Sometimes I write, and sometimes I just sit. Sometimes I sit in the sun.
Do you watch television?
No, I don't watch
Movies?
television. When I'm in a hotel, I never turn the television on. I can't stand it.
What about when you're at home?
When I'm at home, I watch it because we have the cable and we can see movies.
Do you go out to movies?
No. I don't go out when I'm home. I stay home.
Where is home?
LA.
All the time? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, from when you were little, or?
Oh no, I do it all over the country.
Has it affected your music?
What, moving around or living in LA?
Living in LA. You think?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there's been quite a bit of input because I live in Los Angeles. There's so many stupid things there.
Could be a negative input then?
Well, what do you call a negative input? If you see something repulsive and you get a funny song out of it, is that negative input?
I mean, do you think it's kept you from writing certain things you might have been writing else?
Well, I respond to my environment. So if I spend 6 months out of the year traveling around the world, that's 6 months out of the year where I have quite a variety of stimuli. And the rest of the time, I'm just in Los Angeles.
It's interesting. You
What,
just, go ahead.
what inspired you to write Dynamo Home? That happens to be a favorite on our floor.
Well, you won't believe this, but it was an exercise. See, every science fiction movie, whenever we go to the mad scientist laboratory, there's always this noise of a dynamo humming in the background, you know. And I thought, what if that was a girl's name? Dynamo Hum. So I sat down one day and I said, well, if you're going to have a girl's name and write a song like that, what could you make out of it? And that's the way it started.
My favorite song, I guess, has to be The Muffin Man.
Like Muffin Man.
How did that come about?
Well, that started off in about 1962. I had written some little, not like short stories, but even shorter than that, just little things. The Muffin Man was one of them. I wrote another one about a cheerleader. I wrote another one about a guy in a lodge with a funny hat. And another one about this person that knew exactly where to bite the bologna package to make it go poof and open up. And, some stuff like that. But 10 years later, I decided to put music to the Muffin Man.
Another song, Disco Boy. You're playing in Florida, which has to be the
Disco capital
of the disco capital of the world, and that's another one of my favorites here, Disco Boy. How about that? What inspired you to write that?
I was in a hotel in Copenhagen. We were stuck there in Copenhagen for 2 weeks. And the record company tried to keep us amused, so they ran us around town to the various places, and they took us to this disco called the Disc Club, and it was so plastic and it was so pathetic. And I went into the toilet, I wanted to take a shit, and there was only one sit-down toilet in there. And there was a guy who was apparently dying inside this thing. He had the door closed and he was grunting, and I'm waiting, to go to the toilet. While I'm standing in this little restroom, all these Danish disco guys were coming in there, and pretending like they had to pee, but maybe they wanted to wash their hands, but what they really wanted to do is look at themselves in the mirror, but they didn't want somebody to watch them doing it, so they would spindle around in this bathroom trying to find some excuse to stay in there long enough for that wonderful moment when they could get that quick little look at themselves in the mirror and fix their hair before they went back out to try it again, So I got out of there and went back to the hotel and wrote the song.
That's a favorite of mine.
We have one now called Dancing Fool. It's about the disco boy's father.
Is that going to be the new album?
Yeah, it's on a new album. It's also the first song on the show.
What can you see yourself doing in 10 years? The same thing?
Sure.
Well, you do enjoy it, huh?
Yeah.
You wouldn't tell us your age, would you?
Sure, I was born December 21st, 1940. How's your flash math?
Not that good.
38. You certainly look younger.
Actually, I'm 37 because it's December.
So you are younger.
How did the 60s affect your music?
Well, the biggest problem with the 60s was everybody kept trying to explain it, but what they kept overlooking was that it was a manufactured phenomenon. The most credit for the 1960s should go to the government because they helped to make it happen. It was so much of that student bullshit was engineered by the government. It was carefully orchestrated events that were designed to sway certain aspects of public opinion in favor of the war, using kids as the scapegoat. The more hippie revolt and stuff that they could put in the news, the worse they could make the kids look, and hope to polarize the attitudes of the center portion of American culture to hate the kids and support the war. That was the whole design of it.
Since we're on the 60s, did you ever try LSD?
Nope. Never tried it.
A lot of people
never would.
Say that hasn't influenced your music, and it's always, something major as crazy as you were.
Americans are so stupid, they think that it's impossible to do anything creative without some sort of chemical assistance. They've been brainwashed into that because, Americans don't know anything about art, and they don't know anything about creativity. Everything that passes for art and creativity in the United States is so mediocre that if they ever come in contact with a real thing, they can't believe it. They can't believe that somebody can sit down and just do something without being ripped out of their mind.
Well, how do you feel about being a symbol of all these young people who that's exactly the way they feel? They can't do anything without being...
Well, that's why I'm doing this interview. I'm telling them, you don't need to be ripped to do something creative. All you need to do is sit down and do it. You say to yourself, there's nobody in the world that can stop me. There's no way they can keep me from doing what I'm going to do, and then you do it. And you don't get wasted, you just do it. And if somebody doesn't like it, you tell them to cram it and keep doing it.
You can see and hear almost 1,000 Mr. Media interviews by visiting our main site, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Or check out the more than 200 video interviews on the Mr. Media radio site on YouTube. And I'd sure appreciate if you'd show some love for Mr. Media's advertisers, including Stitcher. Apple named Stitcher a top 5 news app of 2011. It's a free mobile app for your smartphone or tablet that lets you listen to your favorite shows and discover the best of news, entertainment, and sports on demand. You can listen whenever you want to more than 5,000 shows, get customized recommendations, and discover what your friends are listening to. My own list of Stitcher favorites is pretty eclectic. I start my day with an hour of MSNBC's Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. Then it's the latest 2-minute update from the Onion News Network. After that, I'll listen to WTF with Mark Maron, Here's the Thing with Alec Baldwin, HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher, and excerpts from E's Chelsea Lately and The Soup with Joel McHale. Also in regular rotation on my Stitcher playlist, the BS Report with ESPN's Bill Simmons, the TechCrunch headlines, and the Don Geronimo Show. The latest episodes of each show, whether originating from broadcasts, cable TV, radio syndication, or podcasts, are continuously updated. Stitcher is a free app for your iPhone, iPad, Kindle, Fire, BlackBerry, Droid, and more. And show your support of Mr. Media by getting, did I mention it's free? The app at Stitcher.com/Mr. Media. That's Stitcher.com/MR Media. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. We're also supported by Audible. Check out Audible's 30-day trial membership and download the audiobook version of the book everyone's been talking about, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Sign up for your free trial today at audible.com/radio. Again, audibletrial.com/radio. And finally, if you need a disc jockey for a wedding, bar mitzvah, corporate event, or just a big old party, please consider calling 1-800-DIAL-DJs, the party authority for all your party entertainment needs. You can call 1-800-DIAL-DJs or go to their website, 1-800-DIAL-DJs.com, and tell them Mr. Media sent you. And thanks for listening. Today's episode of Mr. Media Interviews is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. You know GoDaddy.com from their wild and sexy commercials, but isn't it time you actually test drove their web hosting and domain registration services yourself? For a limited time, Mr. Media listeners can save 10% on the already low price of web hosting services at GoDaddy.com by entering the promo code POD4 at checkout. Again, that's 10% off web hosting when you go to GoDaddy.com and enter the promo code POD4, that's P-O-D, the number 4, at checkout.